Why good girls don't get love. You did everything right. You were the obedient daughter, the understanding friend, the convenient woman. You didn't make scenes, didn't demand, didn't cause problems. You believed. If I'm good, they will love me. But here's what's strange. Love somehow goes to others. To those who are worse than you. To those who are moody, demanding, who leave slamming doors. To those who aren't afraid to be inconvenient. And you, the good one, are somehow alone. Or in a relationship where you aren't valued. Or with someone who loves you at half capacity. What's wrong? Why doesn't the formula work? Today, we look at the trap of the good girl. Why obedience doesn't equal love. And the price you pay for being convenient. Let's start with where good girls come from. Psychoanalyst Alice Miller wrote a book that transformed our understanding of childhood psychology. It's called The Drama of the Gifted Child. Miller described a mechanism that forms in childhood when a child learns to suppress their own needs in order to preserve their parents' love. Gifted in her sense doesn't mean talented. It means someone who learned very early to sense what adults want and to adjust accordingly. This child doesn't cry when they want to cry, doesn't get angry when they're angry, doesn't ask when they're in need, because they absorbed this truth. My real feelings are a problem. I am loved when I am convenient. And so a woman grows up who doesn't know who she really is, because her whole life she's been whoever she needed to be. The good girl isn't a personality. It's an adaptation. Horney, the 20th century psychoanalyst, described 3 strategies people use to manage anxiety. Moving against people, moving away from people, and moving toward people. The good girl is moving toward people. A strategy where safety is achieved through pleasing, merging, abandoning the self. Horney called this the neurotic need for love. Not a healthy desire for closeness, but a desperate need for approval, without which a person doesn't feel they have the right to exist. The good girl doesn't want love. She needs it like oxygen. And that need pushes people away. Here's the paradox that matters. When you try to be good so that you'll be loved, you're transmitting something. I'm not enough on my own. I have to earn it. I'm willing to pay with myself for your attention. And people pick up on this. Not in words, but in energy, in behavior, in the way you agree to less than you deserve. Those who tend to see a resource in you. Those who are healthy feel the imbalance and pull back. Because a relationship with someone who has no self isn't a relationship. It's a service. And there you are alone again. Or with someone who's using you. And you think, maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I need to try harder. But the problem isn't that you're not trying hard enough. The problem is that you're trying at all. The ancient Greek myth of Echo and Narcissus is exactly about this. Echo was a nymph who was punished by the goddess Hera. Her punishment was that she could only repeat the words of others. She couldn't speak her own words. Couldn't start a conversation. Could only reflect. She fell in love with Narcissus, a youth who couldn't love anyone but himself. Echo followed him, echoed his words, hoped he would notice her. But he didn't notice. He was too busy with his own reflection. Echo faded from grief, until nothing was left of her but a voice. This isn't just a beautiful story. It's an archetype. A woman who has no voice of her own attracts someone who cannot see her. Not because she's unlucky, but because she herself doesn't see herself. And chooses someone who confirms her inner belief. I am not worthy of being seen. Psychoanalyst Nancy McWilliams describes this as the complementarity of psychological structures. A person with a depressive personality organization, which good girls often have, unconsciously chooses partners who confirm their worldview. If you believe you must earn love, you will choose someone who demands that you earn it. This isn't coincidence. It's an unconscious pull toward the familiar. There's another layer. Good girls often carry suppressed rage. They don't allow themselves to be angry because good girls don't get angry. But the anger doesn't go away. It simply turns inward. This can look like depression, like chronic exhaustion, like the feeling that life is passing you by, like psychosomatic symptoms. Pain, illness, tension in the body. Freud said that depression is anger directed at the self. The good girl is angry, but not at the person who hurt her. At herself. For not being good enough. For failing to please. For daring to want something for herself. The Vedic tradition speaks of this too in different language. Ayurveda describes the concept of ojas, the life force. Ojas is depleted when a person gives more than they receive. When they don't replenish themselves. When they live for others, forgetting themselves. A woman with depleted ojas is tired, dim, sick. She can do everything right, but there's no life in her. No light. No strength. The Vedas say, a woman fills up when she lives in alignment with her own nature. And that nature is not about serving everyone around her. It's about being herself. The good girl betrays her own nature every single day and pays for it with her life force. What lies beneath the desire to be good? Fear. Deep, childlike fear. The fear that if I am myself, I will be rejected. That my real self is too much. Too angry, too demanding, too alive. That the real me is unlovable. And once, that fear was justified. Once, in childhood, being yourself really was unsafe. But you're not a child anymore. And the people around you are not your parents. Your psyche just doesn't know that yet. It's still protecting you from a threat that no longer exists. British psychoanalyst Donald Winnicott introduced the concept of the false self. A structure a child creates to meet the expectations of others when their true self isn't accepted. The good girl is the false self. A mask that has been worn so long it feels like a face. Beneath it is the real you. The one who gets angry, who wants, who demands, who takes up space. The one you've been hiding so long you've almost forgotten she exists. What can you do? First, admit that being good isn't working. This isn't a failure. It's simply a strategy that doesn't bring what you actually want. It brings approval, but not love. Acceptance, but not closeness. Safety, but not life. Second, start looking for your real self. This isn't quick. It's a set of questions. What do I want? Not what's correct, not what will please others. What do I want? At first, the answer will be silence. Because this voice hasn't been used in a long time. But it's there. It's waiting. Third, risk being inconvenient. Say no when you want to say no. Ask when you need something. Get angry when you're angry. And tolerate the consequences. Yes, some people will leave. Some will be disappointed. Some will say, you've changed. But those who stay will stay for the real you. And those are the only relationships that mean anything. Fourth, allow yourself to be bad. Not perfect. Not convenient. Not pleasing to everyone. Alive. Bad girls get love not because they're bad, but because they're real. They don't hide. They take up space. They show themselves fully, inconvenient parts and all. And that's magnetic. Because people feel truth. People fall in love with the living, not with a function. You thought being good was the path to love. But it's the path to disappearing. You've been convenient for so long you've forgotten what you're actually like. Maybe it's time to remember. If you want to understand yourself more deeply, subscribe. This is where we talk about the things people usually stay silent about. In the next video, we explore the myth of Persephone, a woman torn between her mother and her own life, and how to stop being someone's daughter and start being yourself.